those of you without businesses, which I know is a lot of you on the training as well, then we're going to do some exercises this morning, get you thinking about some ideas, and this afternoon actually as well. But some great things to do is think about what do you know about already? A lot of us have got a lot of expertise based on our current jobs that we've done in the past, hobbies, interests. So think about what do you know about, think about your friends, think about your family, what do they know about? And if all of that fails, I would say go to a big branch of Direct Smiths, but you can't really do that right now because that's not essential travel. But what you could do is just browse online. If you browse, magazines, there's actually some magazine stores online where you can subscribe to magazines, but you can still see all the different kind of magazines there are out there. And I find that really good for inspiration to get ideas for things that I'm gonna sell. Another good tip is to use Google, and use Google in the sense of searching for something like, go to Google and type in, fastest growing hobbies UK. And someone somewhere will have done some research on that, and there'll be the report which you can, download, and often it's students at universities or someone somewhere, or YouGov or one of those survey bodies will have done a survey and will be able to tell you what are the most popular things for a given topic happening out there. So that's really good. Newspapers are fantastic. And again, don't rush out and buy newspapers because that's an unnecessary trip right now. But I get the newspapers on my iPad every day. And, if you've not tried that, it's great. Just subscribe. You can get newspapers on your iPad. And I go through the newspapers every day because I'm looking for business ideas. I'm looking for what's new, what are the trends. I'm always educating myself. And if we look at that little list on the first half of the slide there, if I look back and think, what I started off with. So I started with my Bulgaria property guide. That was something I was interested in. That was my interest because I'd bought a property in Bulgaria. And that led me to do lots of other property investment guides. But I've also done lots of products which were actually my friends and family's jobs and interests. So I had a friend who was running a cleaning business, so I sold a how to start your own cleaning agency business guide. Another friend who was a school teacher, so I did a guide on how to become an international school teacher guide. Another friend who was an electrician, so I did a guide on the 17th edition wiring regulations. So lots of the products and services that I've sold have been based on friends and family. Another big source of ideas for me has been newspapers. So the reason I got into plumbing courses, bricklaying courses, was because I saw stuff in newspapers about them. Other things that I've done, like drones, about 5 years ago, I was kind of into the drone market before everybody else was, because I'd seen about that in the media, about how drones were getting really, really popular. Things I'm looking at now are things like electric bikes, because I've seen a lot of stuff in the press about those, and home automation and that kind of stuff. So I very much keep my finger on the pulse about what is new, what's upcoming, what the trends are. And a lot of that stuff, I haven't got a crystal ball. I just get that from reading newspapers and keeping up to date. And I'd urge you all to become like a sponge. I hear a lot of people, and particularly right now, saying things like, oh, I don't watch the news, I don't read newspaper because it's always bad news. But it's also what's going on in your world. And I think it's really important that you know what's going on, because if you know what's going on, you're just better informed in life. Okay. So for example, one of the other things I do while I'm not busy, in fact, the last few weeks I've been doing a little bit more, and I've kind of got two screens here. Normally on my other screen over here, I have a website called IG Index open, which is a spread betting service where you can spread bet on shares. So you can bet on indices like the FTSE going up or down, or you can bet on specific companies. Now, one of the things I've been doing in this kind of room that I'm sat in here, on the wall over here, is a television. So literally I've got a trading screen up here, I've got a television up there, and I've got like my main computer, which I'm looking at right now, which is, I'm looking at you guys, which is my main computer. So even if I'm just doing some stuff on here, I'm doing some emails, because I've got the telly on over there, I'm hearing all the latest news on Corona this, Corona that, etc. And I've got my trading screen over here. And because I've got that awareness going on, right, I'm kind of seeing share prices changing here. And I see a big announcement from the mayor of New York or something, or the US last week announced their unemployment figures, and I'm instantly seeing the change over here in the American stock market indices. So instantly I'm able to react to that. And literally I'll just turn over there, put a little bet on, and then carry on what I'm doing. So it takes me like 20 seconds, but I've been making thousands a month, just that. And I'm no trained share trader. I'm just reacting to news and just having a common sense view that if suddenly they're saying massive increase in unemployment, probably stock market's going to go down a bit in the US right now. Let's just have a little bet on that, shall we? Also, I watched an article over here, or a news magazine program about the company that's generating the tests. We've heard so much about tests and swabs and Lord knows what for these testing for COVID-19. So because I saw that and then named the company, I pull up their graph over here as to what's the share price done. And it's like, oh, that's kind of going like this. It's growing quite strongly. I think that's worth a punt as well. So I've put a little spread bet on that continuing to go up. Let me ask you, do you think it's kind of common sense that in this pandemic crisis that we've got, if there's a company that's got some technology which is key to doing the tests to find out if you've got it or not, do you think they're going to go up or down? It's not rocket science, is it? So that's just a couple of real world examples of, because I'm always just sucking in news, I use that in many different ways, not only to turn into necessarily an internet marketing product. I might just use it to do something like put a trade on because I'm sucking up the news. But if you black out all the news, you would have missed those opportunities. If you didn't hear about the US unemployment until 3 days later, or you still don't know what the number went up to last week, you missed that opportunity of maybe putting a trade on that. If you don't know the name of the company that makes this thing because you don't watch the news, you missed out on that opportunity. So I'm a big believer that news is opportunity. News, if you suck it in, it gives you opportunity everywhere you go. And also, because things like, often when I'm sat here, I'll have like the Parliament channel on, the House of Commons stuff, before this was going on, because I want to see what they're debating about and what new bills of Parliament coming in, because laws create opportunity. So when there's a new law, like, for example, EPC certificates became mandatory a number of years ago. Some of you might remember that. And when you sell a house, you've got to have an EPC. So a new law comes that everyone's got to have an EPC. So what does that do? That creates a market for doing EPC certificates. And one of my students who came through my course around this time heard what I was saying about, keep an eye on legislation, saw about EPCs and set himself up as an EPC business, got himself to the top of Google in Northern Ireland and became the #1 EPC provider, just because he had that awareness of this thing's coming, it's going to be mandatory. So keep an eye on legislation. If any of you are in the property space right now, get another sort of legislation example. The permitted development rights changed for converting shops, for converting commercial buildings, and for converting farm buildings into residential. And I know a lot of people that have made a lot of money from that opportunity, because the ones that kept their ears to the ground and saw that, the first movers that became aware of that, quickly started looking for commercial buildings suitable to convert, farm buildings suitable to convert, and they've made their money and they've done fantastic. Now, think about the situation we're in right now and just ask yourself, do you think there's going to be any changes in the property market going forward? My hunch is, and again, I've got no crystal ball, but it feels like common sense to me, that an awful lot of retailers are going out of business right now. So my crystal ball says that probably means there'll be an awful lot more shops that are not shops anymore, which means there will probably be more encouragement by government planning policy to convert more shops to residential, for example, because we know we've got a big shortfall of residential properties in the UK, and we're going to have a surplus of shops, aren't we? When we come out the other side of this, there are going to be too many shops. I also think restaurants are going to fall. I think there's going to be a demise in the restaurant culture. We've already seen some big restaurant chains like Carluccio's last week going broke. There'll be others. We already had Jamie Oliver before all this going down. So they're already on the knife edge. And I think there's going to be a growth in the eating food from home. Actually, take out delivery type stuff rather than going and sit in restaurants. Because for quite a while, we're going to be a bit worried about going out and socializing with other people because Corona is invisible. We're not going to feel too confident out in restaurants, I don't think. So I think there's an opportunity for what I'd call, high-end delivered food. At the moment, delivered food to your door is typically more junky foods, your Chinese, your Indian, your kebab shop type stuff. But I think there's going to be a market for finer dining, something a bit nicer, a bit classier, that people would pay for delivered to their door. So that's just something that I'm, picking up again, just from sucking the news and just being aware of stuff. Anyway, sermon over on all that. Hope you've got that. So another couple of tips from the bottom there is